What's up everybody? So today we'll be talking about modules, so let's get started. Okay, so a module is basically a code library. It's essentially just a Python file that contains functions, classes, and etc. So to create a module, all you have to do is just create a Python file. So I've already done that and I've named it mymodule.py, and this is where we'll be writing the functions, classes, etc. And then we will be using those functions inside of our main.py file. Okay, so now that we have our module, we need to add code to it. So let's just write a simple function. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so we have a function greet that takes in a name as the parameter and just prints hello and then the name. Okay, so what if we want to use this function inside of our main.py file? To do that, we can use the import statement. So import, and then the name of the file, in this case it's mymodule. And now our main.py file has access to the code inside of mymodule.py. So just to illustrate this, if we want to run the greet function, to do that we would say mymodule dot and then the name of the function, which is greet. And then since greet takes in a name, we have to supply it a name. So I'll just supply it my name. And now let's run our main.py file. Now you see we get hello Harrison. So it's using the function inside of mymodule.py inside of main, and we're able to do that because of the import statement. So when importing a module, you can actually create an alias for the module name. So let me just demonstrate that. So we can say import mymodule as mx, and now instead of referring to my module as my module, we'll refer to it as mx. So this will now work the same as it just did. So we basically created an alias for my module. So now we'll refer to it as mx. So there are also lots of built-in modules in Python. One of them is platform. Let me just show you how it works. So we can say import platform. Now I'm going to create a variable x and set equal to platform.system. And it's a function, so we have to say parentheses, and then we'll just print x. Let's print x, and then let me run main. See, we get Windows. So we're basically using the system function from the platform module, and platform is a built-in Python module. So I'd recommend looking into just like a list of the built-in modules. This is just one of many. So platform is a module, and it has functions. System is just one of the functions that's part of the platform module. So if you want to get a list of all the functions from a module, you can use the dir function. Let me just show you what that looks like. So we'll say that x is equal to dir of platform, and then we'll just print x. Alright, let's run our code. You see we get a list of a bunch of names, and all of these are functions that we can use. You see, we use the system function, but there's also all of these other functions, and you can look up the documentation for any module. You just have to look that up like on the internet or something, and looking up the documentation will explain what each of these functions actually does. So just try not to get overwhelmed by all of these function names. Okay, there's one more thing I want to show. So remember when we imported my module? Here, let me do that again. Import my module. So when we run import my module, every single function from my module will be loaded into main.py. This can be inefficient sometimes because oftentimes we'll just want to use like one specific function from a module. So loading in every function from that module would just be inefficient because it's all unnecessary. So let me just show you all what that would actually look like in practice. So for example, if we had multiple functions from our module, let's make a goodbye function. Okay, so now we have two functions. So now going back to main.py, so when we import my module, we're gonna have access to both of these functions. But like I said, sometimes we only want to use just one function. So loading in the other function is just unnecessary. So to load in just like one specific function, we can say from my module import, and then the name of the function that we want to include. So in this case, if we want to include goodbye, we can say goodbye. And now we can use the goodbye function inside of main.py, but we can't use the greet function in main.py. Just to demonstrate this, if we say goodbye Harrison, and then run our code, you see we're allowed to use the function because we imported that specific function. But if we try to use the greet function, then we're going to get an error. You see, we get an error because it says that the greet function is not defined. Well, it is defined, but we're not including it. So that's why we're not allowed to use it here. We could also say import goodbye, comma, and then greet. And now this will load in these two functions. So now that we've included greet, now we can recall our code and it'll work. So that about wraps it up for modules. Thanks for watching, and see ya.